a chamber started to open. My own team started to think that maybe I could be right.
For the past 2,000 years, a question has haunted historians, archaeologists, and anyone interested in mysteries. Where is the tomb of Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt? Cleopatra was not just a queen. She is considered one of the most powerful and cunning women of her time. Her life was mysterious, but her death left even more questions. Some say she died of poison, others that she took her own life. But the biggest question has always been where she was buried. Now, the story has taken a new turn. Near an ancient Egyptian temple, Taposiris Magna, scientists have discovered something that has shocked everyone. The research team itself says they didn't know what they would find inside. But as the excavation progressed, things became stranger and stranger. Recently, archaeologists opened a sealed chamber believed to be her tomb. But what they found inside yielded no conclusive answers. It has frightened the entire world. And the clues that have emerged have even led scientists to wonder if this tomb is a dangerous time capsule that should never have been opened. If this is truly Cleopatra's tomb, the implications could affect the entire world. In this video, we will tell you everything that has come to light so far, step by step. So stay tuned until the end of the video, because the last part will surprise you. And before we proceed with the video, subscribe to the channel so you can be the first to see such videos. This is the story of a queen who was never silent. Cleopatra VII ascended to the throne of Egypt at a time when her empire was weakened from within and the power of Rome was steadily growing from without. And the way we view Cleopatra today is largely shaped by those who ultimately defeated her. In reality, she was not only beautiful, but also incredibly intelligent, well-educated, and a shrewd ruler. It is said that she could speak 9 languages and was well-versed in politics, religion, and the intricacies of power. She ruled at a time when the ancient glory of Egypt was drawing its last breath. People tell tales of her beauty, but the real source of fear was her intelligence and strategic acumen. She first allied herself with Julius Caesar, which brought Egypt a period of respite, and after Caesar's death, she formed a relationship with Mark Antony, Rome's most powerful general. Together, they ruled from Alexandria, raised armies, issued coins bearing their images, and openly challenged Rome. This angered Caesar's adopted son, Octavian, who saw Cleopatra and Antony as the greatest threat to his power. This rivalry gradually escalated into war, and in the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, Octavian's forces decisively defeated Antony and Cleopatra. The following year, the Roman army arrived in Egypt. The besieged Antony received the false news that Cleopatra was dead, and, heartbroken, he stabbed himself. He did not die immediately. Bleeding profusely, he was carried to Cleopatra's chambers, where he died in her arms. It is said that at that moment, Cleopatra was completely devastated, his blood staining her hands and clothes. When Octavian arrived in Alexandria, Cleopatra understood what awaited her: humiliation, chains, and being paraded through the streets of Rome as a captive. She refused to accept this fate. She locked herself in her chambers and had a poisonous Egyptian cobra smuggled in a basket of figs. As the snake bit her, her breathing slowed, and she collapsed beside Antony. Her death, like her life, was a matter of her own choosing. Later, her statue was paraded through Rome as if she herself were a captive, but ancient texts also record that both Antony and Cleopatra were buried together in a royal tomb, built in great secrecy. This tomb was said to be filled with gold, symbols of the gods, and scrolls containing ancient Egyptian wisdom. but no one ever recorded its location. Over time, wars, floods, and earthquakes devastated Alexandria, and much of the city sank beneath the sea. The area where the royal palace once stood disappeared beneath the sand and water. For centuries, a people have searched for the tomb among the submerged ruins, in the lands of the Nile Delta, in remote cemeteries. Statues have been found, coins have been unearthed, fragments of palaces have been discovered, but Cleopatra's tomb remains elusive. The mystery endures, a shadow buried beneath 2,000 years of earth, water, and legend. In ancient Egypt, people didn't consider death the final end, but rather the beginning of a new journey. Cleopatra shared this belief. She considered herself the living embodiment of the goddess Isis, and likely had complete faith that her story wouldn't end after death. This is why a strange sense of fear and mystery has always surrounded her name. In Egypt, people gradually began to weave tales that disturbing her tomb would be unwise, as her spirit was still connected to the land. Over time, circumstances led historians and archaeologists to view her not merely as a queen, but as a vanished presence. Whenever something new was discovered in Alexandria, the same question arose. Was she still somewhere nearby, or had her tomb been deliberately hidden? Strangely, her disappearance has become even more impactful than her actions during her lifetime. Her face still appears on coins and statues, but her body, the ultimate proof of her existence, remains elusive. Some believed the sea had swallowed her, while others said the priests had hidden her in a safe temple far from the city, so that looters and enemies could never reach her. Amidst all these speculations, one name emerged: Kathleen Martinez. She wasn't an ordinary archaeologist, but a criminal lawyer from the Dominican Republic, who couldn't rest until she unraveled Cleopatra's story. She searched through books and maps, looking for details that most people had overlooked. She believed that Cleopatra had deliberately left clues to her final resting place within Egyptian religious traditions and symbols. Where others saw only a story, Martinez was trying to read the thinking behind that story. Her logic was simple. Why would a queen who considered herself the goddess Isis be buried in an ordinary tomb? If Mark Antony was associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife, then their final resting place might not be a palace, but a temple dedicated to both deities. This line of thinking made Taposiris Magna the focus of the search, and revived the mystery of Cleopatra once again, without unnecessary fear or sensationalism, but with a simple, stark truth, that perhaps she is still there somewhere. For Martinez, Cleopatra's story was never over. She believed that the queen's tomb was still hidden somewhere, and that it only needed to be looked at with the right perspective. With this belief, she began to understand the sacred areas of Egypt where temples of Isis and Osiris once stood. Ancient texts mention a place where Isis hid her beloved. These words weren't a straightforward map, but rather written in veiled language. Martinez matched these clues with old maps and discovered a place where history and faith intersected. In this quest, she arrived at Taposiris Magna, about 45 kilometers from Alexandria. From the outside, the place looked like nothing more than a dilapidated desert ruin, with crumbling walls and shifting sands. But Martinez felt something different here. The temple's structure, its pathways, and markings perfectly matched the rituals associated with Isis. She felt this could be the place where Cleopatra and Mark Antony had hidden themselves away from the world. The excavation was not easy. Intense heat, lack of funds, and skepticism from many. Everything stood in their way. Many experts said the tomb had either been submerged in the sea or completely destroyed. But as the excavation progressed, sealed passages and chambers were discovered below. From there, coins bearing Cleopatra's image, broken jars, and statues associated with Isis were unearthed. Every discovery pointed to the fact that the story of Egypt's last queen was not yet completely buried. By 2020, Pseutoposiris Magna had become one of the most talked-about archaeological sites in the world. Martinez was clear that the site wasn't just for worship, but that it might also be connected to royal burial grounds. According to her, the last rulers of Egypt might have chosen such a place to preserve their identity and memories. But even after years of excavation, many experts remained unconvinced. The reason was simple: no sarcophagus, no royal inscriptions, and no concrete evidence of any bodies had been found. The situation changed when new technology was introduced to the excavation. Martinez's team began using ground-penetrating radar to examine the ground beneath the temple. And that's when everyone was astonished. What the scans revealed was completely unexpected. Directly beneath the temple, more than 10 meters deep, lay a long and perfectly straight tunnel. This tunnel, approximately 1,300 meters long, had been carved directly into the limestone. The walls were so smooth and even that at first glance, it looked as if it had been created by a modern machine. A buzz of excitement swept through the team. Some felt this might be the path leading to hidden tombs. Some cautiously began to suggest that Cleopatra's real tomb might be somewhere nearby. The data continued to pour in, and the indications became even stranger. Sealed chambers, evenly spaced sections, and a deliberate design. When the team finally entered the tunnel, the atmosphere shifted. The air was heavy, slightly warm, and strangely still. The path leading down was slippery, and the sound of each step echoed back after a delay, as if the stones themselves were holding on to and then releasing the sound. In that moment, everyone felt this wasn't just a tunnel, but the beginning of a great mystery. An archaeologist said that standing inside the tunnel felt like being inside a living musical instrument, except that instead of water, sounds were flowing through it. As the team advanced, strange burn marks became visible on the walls in the light of their torches. In some places, the stones gleamed as if they had melted and then solidified. It was clear that immense heat had been used to seal this passage, a level of heat impossible to achieve with ordinary torches. Samples taken from the walls revealed chemicals that did not match any known ancient fuel. The implication was clear. This passage had been deliberately sealed using a powerful method. Scans also revealed that the tunnel did not end there, but instead curved downwards into a large cave. The radar images weren't clear, but two human-like figures were visible lying side by side inside the cave, one larger, one slightly smaller. Some members of the team immediately thought they had found Cleopatra and Mark Antony, but Martinez's attention was drawn more to the overall structure than to the figures themselves. Every line of the tunnel seemed deliberately constructed. Its symmetrical design, the fire-sealed sections, and the strange way sound echoed, everything suggested that this place wasn't built merely for burial. It was built to protect or contain something. An engineer quietly remarked, "This isn't a tomb, it's a system." Further on, they encountered a wall that wasn't easy to break through. It was inscribed with ancient warnings, and the path seemed to discourage progress rather than invite it. When the first sealed section was opened, they found themselves facing water-filled tunnels. The stale air inside was so strong that it burned their throats despite their masks. At that moment, it became clear. This place didn't want anyone to proceed. As their flashlight beams cut through the dust, a long, straight corridor came into view. Carvings on the walls on either side were clearly visible in the dim light. Figures of Isis and Osiris stood facing each other, as if guarding what lay within. The atmosphere instantly became heavy. The walls were completely covered in writing and symbols. There was ancient Egyptian script, Greek and Latin. It seemed as if priests from different eras had come here and written the same message in different languages. As the team cleared away the sand, one line appeared repeatedly: "Do not disturb the lovers who sleep in peace." This wasn't poetry, nor a common warning. It was a direct message. As the corridor descended, the passage became narrower and narrower. It felt as if the place was deliberately drawing someone in, yet simultaneously issuing a warning. Finally, another obstacle appeared. This wall wasn't like a door, but rather resembled molten rock, as if granite and lead had fused together. Tests revealed traces of heat and radiation, levels that couldn't be explained by any ancient technology. It was clear, whatever was behind it wasn't meant to be opened. The air analysis was even more disturbing. And the dust contained toxic elements in such high concentrations that it seemed less like a security measure and more like a complete sealing mechanism. The builders had sealed something away here that was never meant to see the light of day again. When the team finally reached the center, there was only one thing there: a coffin made of black stone, utterly alone and silent. The coffin was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was so smooth and polished that it looked less like stone and more like glass. When light struck its surface, it shimmered faintly, as if there were metal embedded within. Strangely, the coffin felt warm to the touch, even though the room was cold. The instruments also behaved strangely. The compass needle began to spin without anything touching it. The investigation revealed that the stone was not ordinary. It contained elements that could not have been used with ancient Egyptian tools. Fragments of gold leaf and several coins were scattered around the coffin. Cleopatra's face was clearly visible on many of the coins. Even after so many years, her features were unmistakable: her nose, eyes, and royal crown. These weren't ordinary offering coins, but genuine coins minted during her reign. Some coins also bore the image of Mark Antony. This suggested that the old stories of the two being buried together might not be entirely false. More tombs were found in the smaller chambers nearby. Most belonged to high-ranking individuals, officials and priests, who were buried with fine clothing, jewelry, and religious symbols. This made it clear that the site was not just for commoners, but was considered royal and sacred. But the strangest object was found near the coffin: a heavy bronze cylinder, half buried in the dust. It was far heavier than its size suggested and didn't resemble any known Egyptian artifact. Scientists later determined that it was made of a mixture of different metals, a combination not mentioned in any ancient records. This discovery left many questions unanswered and provided no answers. X-rays revealed 3 faint shapes inside the cylinder, as if something were trapped in molten metal. Why it was placed there, why it was hidden in such an unusual location between the coffin and the royal wall, no one had a clear answer. All that was certain was that the object didn't seem to belong there, and that was the most unsettling thing of all. But amidst all these investigations, one thing became clear. When the team realized that Cleopatra's body was not there, the entire room fell silent. The coffin was present. All the signs of a royal burial were there, but the coffin was empty. The evidence suggested that Cleopatra had indeed been brought there at some point. The coins, the symbols, and the inscriptions all pointed to that conclusion. The only question was, where did her body go? In 2,000 years, Egypt has seen many eras: Romans, Arabs, Byzantines, and other powers have come and gone. It's possible that someone had already discovered the tomb. Some historians believe that Roman rulers deliberately tried to erase any traces of Cleopatra to destroy her goddess-like image. It's possible that her body was removed during that time. Some go even further. What if the tomb wasn't destroyed, but deliberately hidden again? Perhaps the remains were buried in different places, or the treasure was moved elsewhere. Whatever happened, and one thing was clear: whatever was buried with Cleopatra was no longer there, and that mystery remains alive to this day. What happened next plunged the entire excavation into sudden silence. It was as if someone had decided to stop the story right there. When the team returned to the surface, the situation had changed. Within hours, government officials arrived. The temple and all the tunnels below were sealed off. The entire area was declared restricted, citing security and preservation concerns. The excavation was immediately halted. Soldiers were deployed everywhere, and suddenly phones, radios, and even the internet stopped working. The team felt it wasn't just about security, but an attempt to take complete control. The strange bronze object found in the chamber, which the team had nicknamed Pandora, was removed under heavy guard. It was said to have been taken to a high-security laboratory near Cairo, inaccessible to ordinary researchers. After that, there were no statements, no updates. All information related to the excavation simply stopped. So what was it that frightened everyone so much? Perhaps the answer lies not in what was found, but in what it represented. Cleopatra was not just a queen. She was a master of power, politics, and manipulation. She associated herself with the goddess Isis, who was considered the goddess of magic and rebirth. Perhaps her tomb was not just a burial place, but a carefully planned structure, a framework designed to keep her influence alive, even after death. Even today, her tomb remains one of the world's greatest mysteries. The strange metals, the sealed tunnels, and the warnings all suggest that this place was not ordinary. Questions also remain about the bronze object. Some consider it a symbol of power, others a warning. Whatever the truth, Cleopatra's story is still not fully revealed. Whatever the truth, the fear that spread after this discovery was very real. The government's sudden silence, the sealing off of the entire area, and the disappearance of the excavation files, all of this made people wonder what had actually been found there. If everything had been normal, there would have been no need for such haste and secrecy. Perhaps Cleopatra wanted her secrets to be buried with her. Or perhaps she wanted them to be revealed only when the world was ready to understand them. One thing is clear from this discovery: Cleopatra did not consider death the end, and instead of giving up, she prepared for the future. Her tomb was not just an ordinary burial site, but a carefully crafted message for future generations. If this is true, then her death was not as it has been described to us for centuries. Perhaps she created her own path to return. And when the door to that place was opened, something may have awakened that she never wanted to be revealed to the world. This is why the question of her body's disappearance remains the greatest mystery to this day. If you enjoy such mysterious history, hidden truths, and unsolved questions, subscribe to the channel now. Like and share the video, and be sure to press the bell icon so that you receive notifications of more such untold stories from history.